a lot of opinions from multiple sources that are not necessarily in line with a faith-based perspective.
As friends, we often chat about many current topics and relationship issues.
Lend your ear and peep into our private conversation.
Welcome to Realistic Conversations,
A platonic perspective with Kay and Ryan.
What's going on, Kay? What's going on? What's going on?
Hey, how are you? Haven't heard from you in a while. What's going on?
Oh, man. Listen, I had to call you. I just saw one of the most embarrassing things I've seen in a while.
What? What happened? What'd you do?
Me? Nah. It ain't me. I'm good. I just saw this lady embarrass her husband in public.
Oh no. Where were you?
Oh man, I was driving and they were walking on the street.
So it was really public.
It was really public.
What'd you do?
I mean, I was driving by, but when you by the red light and you ain't worth nothing, and yeah, I don't know why I married you.
Is he walking behind her, chasing her as she's going on, or was it just an argument on the sidewalk?
It was an argument on the sidewalk. I mean, the light turned green, so I had to go, but
Okay.
and I was like, I gotta call Karen for this one because it was like it wouldn't be me. It would not be me.
Did you hear him respond at all? Was there any
No,
rebuttal?
dude, he ain't say nothing. So I don't know if he got caught cheating or whatever the case might be, but whatever the case was, it wasn't
It was
some
embarrassing.
conversations need to be private.
Unless you found him on the sidewalk with the other woman. She's having the conversation right there and then.
Well, I didn't see the other woman on the sidewalk with them, but
I hear you. But but the whole point is it was really embarrassing.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, like, well, I always say this, right? If a man speaks like that to a woman, that's embarrassing too. But for me, I feel a little bit more when a woman embarrasses a man, like the person that she says she loves, or when we do it, the woman that we say we love and we treat them less than.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta call Karen for this one.
Yeah, that's a rough one because when we're in that headspace, angry, upset, disappointed, the belittling can start.
I mean, I've even seen. Well, I can't say. Yeah, I've seen and heard women who brag about it.
Brag about belittling their men?
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
You haven't?
I don't think so.
I have.
What does bragging about belittling your man look like? Or is it more like, oh, he knows who's in control kind of thing?
They were describing to their friends how they treat their significant other, and he has to listen.
Yeah.
Because he knows.
Yeah, definitely. I have heard that. The bragging about wearing the pants in the family,
yes,
so to speak.
And you ask the questions. I'm asking you, where does that come from? Like, why would you be with a dude and then brag you treat him like a child?
Whoa, where does that come from is a heavy loaded question. First off, I think it comes from experience because you don't learn how to talk to someone you love, especially a man, in that manner without seeing it. If you didn't see it play out in your home, you saw it play out someplace. And also, to be honest, there are times where I know I let my mouth run a lot longer than it should have, stretch a lot further than it should have, because I needed to feel like I was in control of the situation, whether I was or not. There was that lack of whatever that made me think, okay, I'm just going to lead in this way or make sure that it happens my way, which is absolutely wrong. I think it came from a place of insecurity. But also some women know who they can play that game with and who they can't. But the whole reason you would want to play the game is kind of messed up. I think it comes from a place of wanting to be in control.
In control of what?
In control of the relationship, a fear of being vulnerable, not knowing where it's going to go. So you want to make sure that if anything goes down, your emotions are protected, which is a horrible, like I said, way to try to relate and be in relationship. But I think subconsciously a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I can see that because sometimes as we as men too, we a lot of us got controlling issues, especially when we got low self-esteem.
Mm.
So when we got low self-esteem or that ego, I often say when it comes to the ego, right? I don't know if you ever heard me say this. I was like, usually if a man gets cheated on, what do you think his first question to the woman is?
Who is he?
Was he better than me?
Oh, really? Well, didn't you tell your wife if she cheats, he better be better than you? So that might be your thing.
No.
That might be your thing because I would think that the guy is like, who is this guy? Who is this dude? Where did he come from? Is he somebody at work? Where did you
We
meet
asking all
him? You're not
we
asking all those. So that's us, huh? That's us
yeah,
asking.
that's you guys. Yeah,
We want to understand
all that
the
doesn't matter.
logic.
All of that doesn't matter. Listen, we don't want to know all that information.
So the reality of it is, if you hear a no, what does that do for you? She still cheated.
Yeah, but at least remember I said the ego.
That is true. It's like,
Right?
so you went out there cheating. It was a fail. Flop.
Exactly. So now I will feel better about myself.
Okay, come back home.
I don't want
Where's
to come back
better?
home. I don't know about come back home because I can be like, you know what? Yo, I can say, you know what? She cheated on me, and that dude was whack anyway.
Build up your ego even more.
Yeah, exactly. So now it makes me feel better if I'm relaying the story to my friends.
That is true. I can
You know
see
what I'm
that.
saying?
It is
But
always leads back to the ego. But when you just said that
for
about the
men,
men with low self-esteem, it just piggyback to that question about why do women possibly do that? If they've dealt with men in the past who had low self-esteem and talked to them a certain kind of way, they also can unfortunately negatively mirror that in future relationships, right? So now they've been conditioned to having that toxic type of conversation and dialogue, and then they pass it on to the next relationship. And I didn't think about that, but yeah, that could be why too. And
yeah,
they don't want to have to feel the way they did when someone was talking down to them. So it's just like the bully concept. The bully, the one who's bullied,
yes,
becomes the bully.
yes. Or how we say, hurt people, right? And the willingness to hold on or to be in control, not to be vulnerable to each other. And it's amazing how we use that word love.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of us don't even know what love is.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We base love on an emotion, and love is not really an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Love is a principle. That's why God would say, love your enemies, right? Because when you really look at loving your enemy, how do you love a person that you hate? And it doesn't make sense, right? But when God said love your enemies is not a feeling, it is a verb, it's something you do. So if a person try to get you fired, like I was sharing this with my friends, right? Can you imagine a person like that and you try and get you fired from work and you're driving down the street, they got a flat tire and it's raining. And somebody said they would drive by in a puddle of water and splash and splash on them, right? So my thing is, no, God is not. God is saying that you will pull over and you will help them with that flat tire, right? So love is not an emotion. Love is a principle. And when it comes into how does that translate in relationships where, oh, I love him or I love her, but yet still we belittle each other.
So yesterday, I was listening to a sermon, and the gentleman said that when we think about revenge and we want to go ahead and have revenge on someone, that's actually stealing from God, because God says, revenge is
Vengeance is
mine, right?
mine.
And I thought that
Yeah.
was so deep. So I thought about your
Mhm.
flat tire story and wanting, yeah, like human nature is I want to go ahead and splash water on it, but it's like, nah, let God take care of that.
Yeah.
And then earlier you said that hurt people hurt people. And I think it's a phrase that we say often and it makes sense. But a friend of mine recently did a talk and she pointed something out that I thought was profound. And it speaks to your statement about love. She said, hurt people don't hurt people. Hurt people who have not done the work to be healed hurt people. Right? So you can be hurt, but you've resolved that pain so that you don't inflict it on someone else. But when
Mm-hmm.
you haven't done the work to deal with your issues, then you continue to hurt additional people, right? Because you're still holding on to that pain yourself. So in this scenario, when we think we love and we are trying to be in relationship, believing that we're in love, believing that we're loving, if we haven't dealt with some of those hurts, that is where the ego steps back in. That's where the need to control steps back in. That's where the fear of vulnerability steps back in, and the disrespect, the emasculating of the male partner. All of that shows up when we're still dealing with those issues.
Yeah, and also when a person has been hurt and never dealt with the hurt, right? Especially I've seen it where we begin to self-sabotage,
Hmm.
right? And I don't know really know from a male's perspective, but I know from watching some of my female friends, they have a good man and they just sabotage the whole relationship, accusing the man of cheating, accusing the man of doing this, accusing the man of doing that. And the dude is like, yo, I'm not doing these things. And they drive the man away. And when they drive the dude away, their excuse is he want to leave anyway.
Yeah, and if they don't do the accusations, then they just walk away to say he wasn't the one, not even having a real answer to why he's not the one. Self-sabotaging because you don't know what you want. Self-sabotaging because you don't know what you need. Self-sabotaging, I've heard people say he's too good to be true, but you have no evidence at all to end the relationship. So yeah, it's back to the pride and the ego and the need to be in control.
Yeah. I remember our last conversation, not really to go back into that conversation, but a woman making more money than the man. I'm like, why would it matter if my wife makes more money than me? But there's some dudes who can't handle that because they equate money with power.
Yeah.
And if you are a man, or if you know you're the man already in the house, and I'm not saying the man as being egotistical, but if you know that you are the man in the relationship and your significant other, your wife, your spouse, whoever it is, and she lets you know that, okay, you lead, I follow. And here's the sad part too. A lot of women like to advance, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
men, we know we get content, we good. Women
Mm-hmm.
always moving forward career wise. And now your wife is making more money, all of a sudden things change.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're feeling like she doesn't need you anymore.
Well, he could feel that way. Like you said, his ego could be hurt, but she could also sometimes start behaving like she doesn't need him anymore. But we talked about how that can happen, and I think there needs to be a shift in how we talk. You go from speaking English to French, and instead of I, it's we. We are making more money. We are growing. Let's sit down and talk about visions and plans. And sometimes you have to guide and say, hey, hon, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? Versus this is what we're going to do in 2 and 3 years, right? You know, a friend and I were talking about something yesterday because there was an Instagram post and the person was suggesting that one spouse should not ever grow without the other spouse. And I disagreed with that premise completely because there's no way that you can force that other person to grow with you. And also, there's no way that you should suppress your growth and dim your light because the other person isn't growing. If anything, it's again always back to having those conversations to see how can we grow together? What's our collective vision? And all of the goals in a relationship don't necessarily have to be collective. You might decide you want to go back to school. Your spouse might decide to do something else, open a business. We don't have to have the same vision, but where we land, where we end up, the bigger picture. What's the bigger picture for this team? Me and you, not I and I. There's no I and team, as they say. No I and I. It's we this. You
So
know?
let me ask you a question. Is it possible to sense that a dude is, what's the word I'm looking for? Is insecure while dating? No, not while dating. Let's say this guy is kicking it to you and he wants to, get to know you better. Can you sense the insecurities early before you go too far?
I personally have, with the last person I was dealing with. He would say certain things that led me to really clearly see that he had his own challenges going on. For example, we would be in conversation and he would say things like, well, just because you have your PhD doesn't mean this, this, and that. And I'm like, who told you I have a PhD? Or your master's? Who told you I had a master's? He would just be throwing stuff out there at me, making judgment calls that the way I'm dealing with this situation is because I think I'm highly intellectual. Dude, I'm just having conversation using big words because that's what we do when we're adults. That was one clue. Another clue would be like we would be in conversation and he would just say, oh yeah, because I know you make this, this, and that. I'm like, I do? Okay. Like we've never had a conversation about salaries. I've never asked you how much you make. I budget, maybe you don't. And so he just kept trying to get me to tell him what my salary was. And how does it even matter in our relationship? It doesn't matter at all. You know what I mean? I would tell him where I live and that I'm in a low income neighborhood, and he would tell me, no, I don't, because of where I work. It's just like I said, hints. There are lots of hints, and it's really, really important to just really talk. Just talk. Just talk. Just talk. If you're doing a lot more talking than you are going to the movies, being physical, going out to dinner, and just spending quality time together, people will show you who they are. And so, yeah, the insecurities were there. It didn't stop me from pursuing interests, but it definitely stopped me from continuing because I paid attention.
Yeah. I like when you said just keep having conversations, right? Because I often tell my younger female friends, never, ever, ever ask a dude, what type of woman are you looking for? Because they're going to make up all the stories they could think of to try to impress you. Just let the conversation flow. I remember I tell my friends that when I realized my worth as a man, I stopped taking women out to dinner.
Oh yeah, we're not gonna go there.
So they were like, "What?" I said, "Yo,
you and your McDonald's dates."
Yo, I get the same response for everybody else.
Not even
I was
hearing
like,
it.
yo, and I was like, nah, we gonna shoot some pool.
Well, see, actually, that's cool. But the
Right?
other dates you were going on, I was like, I don't even know who he
But
is.
listen, the reason why I went to shoot pool because it was a more comfortable environment, and when you having conversation, I would get to learn everything I needed
Exactly.
to learn. But you know, when you go
Exactly.
out to dinner and the lights is dim, you have the
Mhm.
ambiance. Everybody is trying to speak. How your friends say?
I don't know.
Intellectual.
Oh, why you can't just say what you mean? I
everybody
did.
try, everybody trying to have, according to what your friend said, intellectual conversations.
Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of mood setting. You shift into dating. You
Uh-huh.
feel more connected just because dressed up at a nice restaurant and not even knowing anything about each other. Just feel
Yep.
like you're
So
a
now
couple.
exactly.
So yeah,
So
you're
now
right.
you might not be telling. I try not to use the word lies anymore. You may not be telling the whole truth, right? You're trying to impress this person
Mhm.
because you like them physically. You're attracted to them physically. He or she took the time to
Mhm.
pick this place out. So you want the vibes to go for the whole night. And I
Mhm.
was like, nah, I'm not going through that anymore. I'm going to shoot some pool.
No, shooting pool's good. Like I said, I like that. Starter
Yep.
dates, they call them these days.
Start the dates,
But you,
right?
like I said, you was doing some shady stuff too. So, McDonald dates.
Elena might be watching this.
And I think that's a good idea because again, you get to know how people think because their guard is down. So we're a lot
Uh-huh.
more vulnerable. You can have more conversation and it flows naturally. And so
Yep.
it's a good idea. Also, you get to see how people react and respond to interacting with you. So I don't know in that situation you saw with this wife going off on her husband, it could have been that he did something really egregious and she was upset, or it could have been that that's her nature. But if you're having those really great interactive dates and really making sure you get to know that person, you would know if they show up like that and if you're willing to deal with that. Because to be honest, I do have some friends who talk to their husband sideways and I question the husband. I don't question her as much because clearly she's always been that way, right? And you've known that and you love her enough to love her through it, but to what end? Because it's really disrespectful.
It is, right? And my thing is that's why a lot of women hate to hear when, church dudes use wives submit to your husbands. But it's not a submission of, inferiority. Is because that God has instructed that man, right? If your relationship between your God, you sure that this is the man that God sent you, God instruct that man to love you the way how he loved the church. So now he says, go and submit to your husband because of respecting. We as men, we fuel off of respect, right? And that's big to us. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't know how to give respect, but we want the respect, and because that's what fuels our ego
So
for
when you
respect.
say you want the respect,
Yeah.
what does that show up? How does that show up? What does it look like to you? Because I gotta, a lot of guys will say, or respond to something and say, "Oh, that's so disrespectful."
Mm.
And to me, I'm like, well, if I'm stating a fact or pointing out an issue, why and what makes it disrespectful?
So I guess respect, that's I that could be subjective to every person, right? These days, a lot of people are very sensitive, so they might say that's disrespectful. For me, how does respect show up to me? The way how you speak to me. Um,
Tone.
yes, tone. The way how you speak to me and the words that you're using, right? Um, if Elena was to say, "Well, I allowed you to do this," I don't like that word "allowed."
So is that
because
a disrespect thing or is that your sensitivity?
um I don't think it's my sensitivity because usually when I hear the word, for example, let's put it like this. How would you respond if a dude said, I allow you to get that car?
Did he buy it?
No, I allowed you to get it. He didn't
Right.
buy
Did
it.
he buy it for me? So that
Hmm?
would mean he allowed me to
No,
get it.
no. If I buy it for you, I'm not, that's not allowance.
That's
If
what I'm trying to
I allowed you,
understand. Hmm.
you wanted to get the car, and he
Hmm.
said, or maybe that's a bad example, or I allowed you to wear that dress.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it wouldn't go over well because the decision to put on any attire that I choose to put on is all mine.
Uh-huh. So same thing with us.
Okay.
We use that word, well, I allowed you to do this, or I allow you to do that. So I don't
Okay.
use that
I like
words
that
even.
example.
Yeah, I don't use those words even with me or Elena. I would never tell someone, oh, I allow Elena to go away with her friends. I'm like, Elena went with her friends.
Well, the thing is, what I think I'm hearing is there's a difference in how we speak to each other based on being adults, grown with our own individual options and choices versus children. We
Yeah,
allow children to do things because they can't do
exactly.
things on their own.
They can't make any decision on their own, so we allow them to do certain things. Yes,
So I
or we
think
give them
sometimes,
permission to.
yes, you said permission. So I think
Yeah.
sometimes the tone, like you said, and the word usage is often we can talk down versus talking with to our partners. And often we can be condescending because they all
Mhm.
say, as women, we have a lot more words than men in the same sentence. So we definitely have to be more aware of that. But like I said, with the example with my friend, although she's wrong, although she's the one using the words and the tone disrespectfully, I really struggle with the husband allowing it. And I'm not saying he can control her, but I do believe that we can control and change ourselves, right? So, how is it he's not responding in any way that helps her realize that you're not talking to me in the best manner at all?
Have you ever been like that and a dude put you in check?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah, why you say it like that? Oh, I
Yep,
love
definitely.
that.
Yeah. And the reason I love it is because
Yo,
for me personally, it's just a good reminder of, yeah, I do want to submit. I do want to make sure that I remember that we're in partnership together. So yeah. And I've had a few dudes who definitely just would say one word, enough. And that one word would be all it took.
see,
Enough. And I would go,
so you had enough now? Yo, anyway, on that note, I think I've had enough. But
what? You didn't answer my question.
what question was
The
that?
question is, where's the man's responsibility
Uh,
in making sure that when there is emasculation going on, when there is belittling going on, where is his responsibility in checking that person?
that's a rough question to answer.
Oh,
And
okay.
and the reason why it's a rough question to answer, right? Because that let's say in that situation I saw, that's probably not the first time it happened.
No, she does it all the time. That's my whole
Yeah.
point. Where
So
is
my
his
thing is
responsibility?
some men just don't have the courage to do it.
Oh, oh, wait. Or do some men like it?
I can't see a man like being embarrassed.
Maybe he doesn't see it as embarrassing. Maybe he likes when his woman takes charge.
But there's a difference between taking charge and insulting. If you want to take charge, let's say we got bills to pay, you want to take charge and pay the bills. That's different than embarrassing me in public.
I don't mean take charge of bills. I mean take charge of a situation and handle it and fix it and boss up. Some men might like that.
Yeah, you can boss up respectfully.
Ah, I like that.
right? You could boss up, and that's why I said that conversation should have been had at home.
But again, he's never, ever responded in a way that seemed like he thought it was an issue or that she was going too far.
Some dudes are scared.
Have you ever had to do that? Say, hey, you've gone too far, enough.
Yes.
Oh, what did that look like?
It
was that good.
I will say it was that good.
You almost bit your tongue.
It didn't look too good, but I had to do it.
What did you do?
No, I just said, yo, what did I say? Let me see. All right, I hope Alina don't get mad at me.
Did you watch your tone?
Yes.
Okay.
So I watched my tone but I put more bass in my voice. And I addressed the situation and I said, I am going to hold you accountable for the way how you speak to me. And if you cannot speak to me in a respectable manner, I'm going to let you know that I don't like it.
That's very good.
And then I also say, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
So you could have stopped where you started, but okay. But I get it. But that was good,
it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But sometimes because some people don't really know the damage of how the Bible said the tongue. And a lot of times we as men, we want peace, right? Like I always say, I don't want to be right. I want to be happy. And I used to bite my tongue a lot just to remain happy and peaceful, but it don't always work. Sometimes you need to put a little bass in your voice and let your wife know how her behavior is making you feel.
You gotta go, enough. But on that note,
enough. Yeah. Anyway,
but no, you were right. I like how you handle that, and that's really, we always go back to the same thing, right? We have to have the conversations and be slow to speak.
Yep.
Right. Slow to anger.
Yep. Slow to speak, slow to anger. All right, Kay. So I'm glad I called you to get your perspective on that behavior. I know that once Elena watches this video, we have a conversation.
Oh my gosh. But conversations are always helpful.
Yes, conversations are always helpful. All right, so enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, goodbye, my platonic friend.
Later.
Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to this week's conversation.
If you like what you heard and want to listen to what we chat about next, please look for Realistic Conversation Podcast on all streaming platforms.
And if you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and peep into our next episode by clicking the subscribe button.